Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the session for Mobile Marketing Campaign Optimization. The speaker for this session is Gregg Stewart, VP of New Media Platforms. Let's give a nice round of applause for Gregg.
Good morning. Thank you for coming. I'm an American, but I'm living in Canada, and I flew into New York City on Sunday, and since then I've been without my mobile phone. Basically, it's a no-service situation, and it's been pretty disconcerting and a little bit uncomfortable. I found myself sort of uncharacteristically disconnected from all my communications, no email, no SMS, no voice, and also disconnected from information, personal news, weather, business dashboards, and all that. And it's been a real interesting experience to see sort of how deeply embedded mobile is, and even how personal our relationship with our mobile devices and mobile services are. And why that's important, we'll talk about a little bit later on. So, at Neverblue, I'm responsible for our mobile division as well as our mobile media buying group. We've been buying media for about 1.5 years in the mobile space. I've got a team of 4 people full-time and a couple people part-time, and we've been buying media across a number of verticals, a variety of traffic sources all over the world, and I really want to share with you some of the lessons that we've learned over the past 1.5 years. Before we get started, though, I wanted to share a little bit. We talked a couple weeks ago with some of our top affiliates who are not involved in mobile media buying or mobile marketing, and we asked them why, what was keeping them from actually participating more. And they had 3 or 4 different things that they were really concerned about. Number 1, they felt that the economics were not very attractive. Number 2, they felt that it was a little bit too early to get involved, that the learning curve was a little bit too steep, the risk was a little bit too high. They felt that there was sort of a lack of compelling offers, and also that there's inadequate reporting and analytics. And what I want to do today is try to debunk some of these beliefs and show that it's possible to get into mobile media buying and be successful today. So there's a few different ways you can send in your questions with tweets, with SMS messages, also with a web interface. I've got a lot of material that I want to cover, and so I'll also give you the option of I'll stay after the presentation and speak with you guys as long as you like. So the topics that I want to cover today really are, I want to give an introduction, sort of a contextual overview of the state of mobile marketing, and then I want to go through in detail sort of a soup to nuts view of what it takes to set up, run, and optimize a mobile media campaign. And then at the very end, I want to go through some screenshots that show you how to optimize and what that can mean in terms of ROI. So let's jump right into the overview. I think most of you have probably seen this slide. It's the classic Mary Meeker mobile explosion slide. She published this, I think, first in June of 2010. And there's 2 themes that really come out of this. The first one is one of explosion or acceleration. She predicted in June of 2010 that mobile device sales would surpass PC sales 2.5 years later at the end of 2012. In fact, what's happened is fourth quarter of 2010, just 6 months after she made this prediction, that happened. The other thing that has happened besides acceleration is a huge amount of fragmentation. It's very different from the desktop world where there's sort of standardization of browsers, operating systems, and it's fairly easy to deploy your media. In mobile, you have a lot of complexity, and one of the things that I want to talk with is about how to deal with that complexity. The good news is that the complexity is going away. The prevalence of smartphones and standards like HTML5 are making things a lot easier and will continue to do so. One of the things that I want to really stress is that mobile is not just about devices. Really, mobile is social connective tissue, and it's huge. If you look at the smaller half bubbles, you'll see the likes of Facebook, Skype, Twitter, and Gmail. They're all dwarfed by the number of mobile phones that are out there. And it's an interesting mobile factoid that right now in the world, there are more people that have mobile phones than actually have access to a toilet. So one of the things that goes along with the acceleration is it's very, very hard to keep information current. We had to submit our final slides about 3 weeks ago, and at that point, I believe that it was true that the projections for global mobile advertising spend in 2015 was a total of $10 billion. In the last 3 weeks, Gartner Group has actually come up with an updated report that shows mobile ad spend doubling every year and reaching over $21 billion in 2015. So what I think is really fascinating about mobilization right now is that lead gen is really, really important. If you look at mobile advertiser campaign goals, lead gen and registrations is the #1 advertiser goal. And why is this? I mean, I think there's a lot of reasons. I think a lot of advertisers are struggling to come up with mobile strategies. They're struggling to define ROI, and there's a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And this creates sort of a perfect environment for lead generation. CPA for performance, CPA campaigns are actually perfect because they take the risk off the table for the advertiser, and they generate quantitative ROI, which makes it really, really easy. So in a sense, lead gen is at the forefront of the mobile vanguard. So let's jump into the optimization part of the talk. What I wanted to say is that this talk assumes that everybody sort of has a basic knowledge of internet performance marketing. And what I want to really do is review some of the fundamentals and talk about the things that are different in mobile. So what advertisers want, of course, is they want to take their offers to an audience and get conversions. And where affiliate publishers come in, of course, is the secret sauce that they bring through the angles and what all the magic that they do to get the user to convert. So what we're going to talk about today is really sort of a soup to nuts campaign optimization. I want to talk about how you source mobile offers, how you choose the mobile offers that are actually going to convert. I want to talk about how you get traffic if you don't have traffic. I want to talk about how you design your campaigns and how you deploy them. And particularly, I want to talk about optimization. So the good news is that all that you've learned about online performance marketing still applies. And so under offer sourcing, we're going to talk about a number of different topics, and I'm just going to go by these really quickly. But there are important differences for mobile. First of all, and this is really, really important, is that there's very important behavioral differences between mobile users and regular users. There's new offer sources, new types of conversions and user actions, new offer restrictions, and new payment options. There's also new traffic sources, new targeting. There's a variety of new mobile publishing tools. There's all kinds of considerations that we'll talk about in more detail about how you optimize mobile landing pages. And of course, with all the fragmentation, it's critical to have a good plan for device-specific testing. Under campaign deployment, I want to talk about a structure that we've come up with, which I call progressive targeting, which is really, really efficient. And I want to talk about the importance of deep, real-time clickstream analytics, talk about hyper-optimization, and of course the need to test, test, test. So let's just jump into offer sourcing and selection, just trying to get my slides synchronized here. First of all, mobile represents a massive global lifestyle shift. And what you see is people using their mobile devices in all kinds of different places, bathrooms, meetings, on the bus. And it represents an unfettered use of mobile devices. It represents sort of freedom of movement, continuity of connection, Also, fragmentation of attention. That's something that's very important. So attention spans are very short, very fragmented. Your average user is doing a lot of multitasking, frequently switching context. They have very short bursts of attention. So what this means in terms of your marketing campaigns is you have to engage instantly, and you have to establish immediate relevancy. And what you want to do is you want to give very bite-sized information units and provide very simplified atomic actions that lead the user on the conversion path. I want to talk a little bit about our experience with mobile offers. We've tried a lot of different offers in a lot of different verticals. What we're finding right now is the offers that are working best for us are the dating offers and the ringtone offers. Some of the offers that are more specific to mobile, like app downloads, I think have huge potential. We're doing a lot in that area, seeing a little bit of success, but it's still pretty early days. We've also tried a lot in terms of some of the financial services, education, and biz ops, and a lot of that has been click-to-call, and we honestly haven't really quite decoded how to make that work yet, and I'll talk in more detail about that. So if you're looking for mobile offers, a great place to look is the new mobile affiliate networks. There's a lot of them out there. A lot of them have different characteristics. Some are great for Europe, like Sponsor Mob and Mob Partner. OfferMobi's great. It's really important to have accounts with all these companies. Pay attention to what offers are out there. The offers will come and go. The payouts will go up and down, and it's important to stay current so you're always getting the best offer at the best payout. One other source that I'll mention that's not on the slide is Mundo Media. They've got a lot of very good mobile offers. The other thing about mobile is that it introduces new conversion types. JumpTap comes out with, it's at least quarterly, I think it's a monthly report on post-click actions, and the July report is represented here. A couple things that I want to talk about. Click-to-web has gone up hugely. If you would have seen this report a month ago, click-to-web was actually probably 25% of what it is, and I think that reflects the mobilization of advertiser content that's going on. The other thing is that click-to-call has dropped dramatically. I think it was 21% or something like that, the previous report. Now it's down to 2%. And I think we'll talk about some of the reasons why I think that's happening as well. So now what I want to do is I want to go through a bunch of new user actions. Sort of the grandfather within mobile are premium SMS offers. The purpose of these offers are really to get the user to enroll directly in a premium service that's direct carrier billed and shows up as a charge on the user's cell phone. The action for these is a pin submit, although there's starting to be 1 and 2 click flow offers. And an example of this would be a ringtone subscription from T-Mobile. Second type of offer is a short-form enrollment. These really strongly analogous to the desktop versions. The purpose is really to collect an email or sometimes a cell phone number and maybe a zip code or other information that can be used for remarketing. The action is the user submits the information. And examples of these are basically anything in the lead gen world: education, biz op, dating, could be anything. Click-to-call offers are surprising. When I got involved in mobile, I thought click-to-call was going to be huge. I thought it was a very, very natural way to convert for mobile. It's been a little bit disappointing for us. A couple things to be aware of as a mobile media buyer. There are 2 things that are important that are really outside your control. Number one is that the rate of canceled calls on click-to-call is extremely high. We've heard some studies up to 90% of calls are canceled, and the problem as an affiliate buyer is that you've paid for the traffic and you have no chance of converting. The other problem with click-to-call is you're completely at the mercy of the call center to convert, and we've found that the ability of call centers to convert, even when even when people are on the phone for a minute or 3 minutes, 5 minutes, is not as well as you'd think. Another type of offer is what I call a hybrid offer. And the purpose of a hybrid offer is really to take an offer that in which the conversion begins on the mobile device and bridge it to a more traditional environment where it's easier to convert. A classic example of these are long form, where you need to collect a lot of information, like a dating or education lead, where there's no way that the user is going to fill out the form on the mobile device. They're going to be much more likely to do it on the desktop. Click to install, of course, is brand new for mobile devices. The purpose of this is really to get the user to download and install a free or a premium application. The action could be a download or a first run, and examples of this would be an Android or an iOS application. Moving from user actions to offer restrictions, of course, many mobile offers are device restricted. And you need to keep this in mind. An example would be an offer with a flash landing page. Of course, would be restricted from running on an iPhone or an iPad. Another example would be offer with a direct-to-carrier billing would not be valid for phones that are prepay. Other offers are carrier restricted. And again, the offer will be, an example would be a nutraceutical offer that's licensed only in the United States might be restricted to US-only carriers. Another example, a T-Mobile direct build game or ringtone download would be restricted, of course, just to T-Mobile. So there's new kinds of payment options as well. Direct-to-carrier billing is, of course, a type of billing that's been around for a really long time in terms of ringtones. More and more of the carriers are extending it to other kinds of offers. The beauty of these is that they're friction-free and have very, very high conversion rates. So when you're out looking for offers, definitely recommend that you look for these. The other thing that's happening is the rise of mobile wallets. Basically, the e-commerce providers that have been successful in mobile, like the Googles and the Amazons and the eBays, are all looking to establish the same direct billing relationship with the customer that the carriers have today. And we're not seeing a whole lot of this yet, but I think we'll see more and more of it. And then, of course, the ultimate conversion in mobile is wave and pay, essentially using your mobile phone as a wallet. It's basically offline conversion, sale of a lead generation process that begins on the mobile device. Excuse me. Okay. Next, I want to talk a little bit about traffic sourcing and audience targeting. First of all, there's several different ad types, SMS, search, web display, and app display. What I'm going to be mostly talking about today are web display and app display. Now, if you don't have your own traffic, you have to, like we do, basically go out and buy your traffic. There's a number of different places that you can buy traffic. Sort of the top tier mobile traffic sources would be your AdMobs, JumpTap, Millennial Media. There's a lot of different other traffic sources in mobile, depending on geography you're going after, demographics, the capabilities of the platform. I think one of the things that we've learned is that it's really, really important to have a mastery of your traffic sources, to have direct relationships with them, human-to-human account rep if you can. The yield optimization algorithms that the traffic sources use change all the time, and it's important not to assume that what worked one way today will continue to work that same way. Other option for mobile traffic is search. Of course, the big three, Google, Yahoo, and Bing. We do a little bit of mobile search. I just want to mention it. Again, it's not sort of the focus of the talk for today. The other option you have is going direct. The advantage of going direct is that you can get pretty good demographic targeting. The disadvantage is that it's really, really expensive, and sometimes your traffic is you can't scale because of the volume. When you're When you're looking at different traffic sources, there are a lot of different considerations. Like I mentioned, you need to consider the geographical distribution of the traffic source and your target audience. You need to consider the volume of traffic that's available, the type of traffic, whether it's websites or apps, also whether there's categories that are supported, the demographics of the audience, as well as the cost. The other thing to consider is that there are different types of service models. AdMob and JumpTap are self-serve platforms, which gives you a lot of control over how you set up your campaigns, how you target, how you filter. Millennial Media, we use a lot. They're great. It's a full-service platform where you work with an account rep, and they do most of the optimization for you. More and more mobile advertisers are looking for sophisticated targeting in terms of behaviorals and demographics. It's not as easy to do in the mobile world as it is traditionally, but it can be done. How we tend to do it is with a combination of carrier and device targeting and filtering. If you look at the type of targeting that is done today most commonly, by far, targeting of phone capabilities is the most prevalent. This could be something very general like operating system or browser or screen display resolution and size. Could be something specific like Java, WML, XHTML. Second is location. Not much location targeting is done with near-field communications or GPS today, but I think we'll see more and more of that. Most of it's done with IP mapping. This is helpful, but also limited by two primary factors. Number one is that there's issues with the way carriers map IPs, especially for mobile users. And the second is problems with proxy traffic. Specifically, all the Opera traffic goes through proxies, and so there's no real way to tell where the traffic's coming from. In terms of age and other demographics, basically the approach we use is really a combination of device and carrier targeting as a proxy for that. So there's a couple different ways you can approach mobile media buying. The first one is you can actually go after the specific categories that you think match your target audience. Again, with this, we found it tends to be more expensive. Volume tends to be limited. What we do actually is we buy more run-of-network traffic, and we use device and carrier filtering and any other information we can get to basically filter out the categories that don't work and scale up the categories that do. So the first one, first type of filtering is the carrier targeting. And this is easy to do. It's often required because of the offer restrictions. An example of the kinds of, or some examples of factors that you would consider in terms of the carrier is whether it's a prepaid or contract offer, whether it's a premium or budget, whether the carriers have specific concentrations of demographic groups that you're targeting, and there may be carriers that have phones or other devices that you know match your demographic that they have exclusive or high concentrations of. An example of this would be AT&T with the iPhone in the States a year or so ago. So an example of a real difference would be your typical Virgin subscriber would be very different from your typical Verizon subscriber, and you can use this information. Device targeting is a bit more complicated than carrier targeting, but it's still critical. Some of the factors to consider here are not only whether it's a smartphone or a feature phone, the operating system, screen size, and resolution. Examples of some of the differences you'd find when you look at device targeting is the typical user of an LG chocolate device would be very different from typical user of a BlackBerry Bold, for instance. The third type of targeting that we do is the most complex, it's the most subtle. It's mobile site targeting, and support for mobile site targeting varies greatly from traffic source to traffic source. Most traffic sources are opaque, if not blind, but you can work with them. The site optimization is critical. It's best if you can get the publisher ID or a site ID that lets you get very specific information about which sites are converting well and which sites are not converting well. If that's not available, then you can use channel targeting, which is more general. It could be a channel around sports or news or other information. When you're doing your optimization, the most important thing is to look for sites or channels that are not converting and block them out. Basically, your EPCs will go up very dramatically if you're able to do that. In terms of campaign design, what I wanted to talk about first was mobile content creation. There's sort of a spectrum of needs around mobile content creation. On the one hand, you might be running an offer, the very least common denominator. You don't really need to do any mobile creation whatsoever. On the other side of the spectrum, you may be running campaigns. We know advertisers are doing this, where they're actually creating landing pages that are optimized for a particular device. And so your needs may be from not needing to do any creative design, to needing to do landing page optimization, to building out more complicated conversion paths, or maybe even developing a mobile property. What we found is that WordPress mobile extensions are great. There's also Dreamweaver extensions. The good news is that a lot of different options, growing number of options, a lot of them are free as well. One of the big questions in terms of setting up your mobile campaigns is whether or not to use landing pages. It makes sense in many situations. We use landing pages more and more. Sometimes you need to use a landing page because the advertiser requires it. You can also use a landing page as a way to creatively move the user along in the conversion funnel. What we also use it for quite a lot, actually, is filtering out low quality or low intention leads. And this can be very, very important in click-to-call campaigns for the reason of eliminating or minimizing the effect of the pocket dials or the canceled calls. There are exceptions, however. There are times when you definitely won't want to use a landing page. A great example would be offers with one-click conversions and offers where lead quality is not particularly critical. But as always, when you're running your campaigns, test and try a lot of different options and see what works best. If you are going to use landing pages, it's important to consider sort of the general landing page design principles. They apply certainly to mobile, probably more so in mobile than in traditional campaigns. As I mentioned before, landing page can act as very effective targeting and filtering devices, and good landing pages motivate immediate action by the user. And there's a lot of different things you can vary and test and optimize on: creatives, ad copy, position of your buttons and text, running ads with and without images, all the normal things. However, if you are running mobile landing pages, they really need to be optimized for a couple things. The first of all is they need to be optimized for mobile viewing. They need to be viewable on the target devices. It's important to have device-aware design. Some of this can be automated through tools to make sure that the page actually displays and renders correctly. You want to have as much as possible very small images to account for the fact that sometimes bandwidth is limited and you don't want to lose users because the page is not loading. And unless you're targeting iOS devices, generally we recommend running flash-free. In addition, the viewing really should be mobile optimized, and it needs to be visually clean and simple to account for the small screens. The font should be readable without needing to resume. All calls to action should be clear and above the fold. Using universal, easy to understand icons is very, very important. We try to use as much as possible single column designs, and we minimize the amount of text we use, the number of links that we have that are not essential as well. In addition to being optimized for user display and viewing, mobile landing pages also should be optimized for user input. And really, to convert, the user input must be bulletproof. The typical user is obviously someone who's typing one finger or two thumbs. And to take into account that behavior, the landing page elements should be thumb clickable, the button should be isolated to avoid accidental clicking, and any required navigation should have easy to click on links. And you also want the conversion to be friction-free. So again, as we discussed earlier, you want short, easy to complete forms, click-to-call buttons for specific offers, and with the hybrid model that we talked about, consider email bridging if you need to have long forms filled out. So collect just the amount of information you need in the mobile, on the mobile device, send an email to them, let them fill the longer form out on their desktop. One of the things that is really confounding in mobile media buying is the fact that there's so many different devices out there. They all behave differently, and it's very, very difficult to come up with banners and creatives that actually display and are effective. The number, I mean, there's I think over 6,000 different mobile devices out there right now. And there's no way that you can actually account for all the combinations and permutations of those devices, either in your content creation or in your targeting or your testing. What we've come up with is a series of different buckets that we use that categorize the different devices based on their features and capabilities. And what we tend to do is we design, target for these classes rather than for individual devices. And then when we're testing, what we'll do is we'll choose a few different representative devices from each of the categories and use that as a proxy for the category. One of the things that we'll talk about is there are disadvantages to only using a certain number of devices, but there are actually ways that you can get around those disadvantages pretty easily, and I'll talk about that. So if you're not doing sufficient device testing, you run the huge risk of wasting clicks because you're pushing ads to devices that can't display them. You, as I mentioned, are not really able to test landing pages across all different device types. Use the categories. That's very helpful. Also, there are a number of testing tools out there that help you test different devices in different geographies. And I'm sure there's many of you that use different ones. The ones that we like are GeoSurf and Device Anywhere. We use those pretty much on an everyday basis. Now, I want to talk a little bit about campaign deployment. It's not really rocket science. It's probably something a lot of people do. We've come up with sort of a model for how we buy media, which we call progressive targeting. And for us, it's really the key to efficient and cost-effective optimization. And it really happens in 3 stages. The first stage is kind of like a street lamp. The second stage is like a flashlight. And the third stage is like a laser. It's very important to be structured and analytic in your approach. Phase 1, the streetlight phase, is really to identify the promising segments and also tend to identify any segments that you think may be doubtful in terms of their ability to conversion. The goal here is really to take a manageable amount of spend, spread it across a huge amount of traffic, and then just see what happens. You generally will not make money doing this. Most often you lose money. If you break even, that's actually really, really good. The whole goal is just to find a few promising segments. Rarely we'll run this first phase and decide that the offer is not going to work and we'll write it off. Most of the time we see some signs of life and we'll go forward to the next phase. It's important to remember not to give up too soon, especially when you're in the first phase and you're spreading your spend across a large number of devices. The results you get are not necessarily statistically significant. So even if a device or a category of devices looks like it's not going to convert, note it, set it aside, and come back and retest it at some point. We've actually found some real big winners doing that. So don't give up. Trust the process. The second phase is, after you've gone through the first phase and identified promising segments, is to probe those promising segments. So take your targeting, be very specific, and what you want to do is really illuminate those pockets. The key thing here to remember is that, excuse me, just phone distracted me. Okay, the key thing that you want to do here is look for any pockets. Okay, let me reset. Okay. So we've completed the broad span. We've identified the promising segments. Now what we want to do is we want to take our money and we want to focus on learning what's going on in those promising segments. So we'll go into a lot more detail in terms of looking at which devices are converting, which carriers are converting. We'll look at sites that are converting and sites that are not converting. The idea here is to really control your spend so that you're managing your risk and your ROI. And if you can get to break even in the second phase, you're doing really well. Now, once you've identified the segments or categories that are actually doing really, really well, of course, what you want to do is you want to ramp up your spend, you want to ramp up your scale, and really this is where it gets fun. So in order to do this effectively, it's really, really important to use advanced clickstream analytic tools. And the idea is to track everything that's possible and develop ways, systems, tools that you can mine and visualize the data. What you want to do is really correlate the performance of a segment with as many different factors as you can. So it could be device characteristics, carrier, browser type, geolocation, or referral types. And strong analytics can transform a losing campaign into a big winner. And I'm going to go through an example of that. So how do you do this? Really, we use what we call hyper-optimization to help convert zeros to heroes. So you have to become a data junkie. We have analytic tools that we use that I'll demonstrate to you. We also use a lot of Excel spreadsheets and pivot tables. We have a very structured, iterative approach that we use, and we optimize our campaigns really, really frequently. The other thing to consider, and it comes back to this notion of statistical significance, it's really important not to throw the baby out with the bathwater. There may be segments that look like they're underperforming or non-performing in the first phase that you set aside while you get to a stable performing campaign, and it's good to always come back and retest those because the yield optimization algorithms change all the time. There may be interrelationships between device and carrier that you reveal when you're filtering one or the other, and so there may be very, very well-performing pockets that you can reclaim at this stage. And as always, test, 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 try everything. We've been doing this for a year and a half, and we're often wrong in terms of what we guess about how things will perform. So now what I want to do real briefly is go through some screenshots that illustrate how we do campaign optimization using analytic tools. And when I sent the slides in, I was going to do a short form campaign, but it's actually a ringtone campaign. So imagine that you're a mobile media buyer and that you've got a ringtone campaign that you've been running for several days. This is the system we use. It's our Neverblue reporting system. And the important thing here is just to note that over these few days, you've generated about $2,200 worth of revenue. So in order to know whether this is good or bad, of course, you have to understand what the costs are. So in this case, the campaign was being run on AdMob. And if you look at the amount of money that was spent, it is not looking real good. But again, coming back to our mobile analytics tools, if you go into our advanced reporting system, you can basically filter the traffic on a number of different factors: device, sub-ID, OS, carrier, browser, screen resolution. We use these in a lot of different combinations. For the purpose of this demo, I just want to say very, very simply, let's look at devices. So we take all our traffic, we filter it based on the mobile device type, and we get a report like this. Basically, what you see here is a long list of devices and EPCs for each. You can see that the EPCs, maybe you can't see so well, the EPCs actually range from a nickel to well over $1. So you can see that there's really, really good pockets in this campaign, some very bad ones. So let's imagine that for this campaign, you've decided that if you want to run and scale it up, you want the EPC to be 50 cents, say. So what you can do is you can take this report and you can look at all the devices that have EPCs higher than 50 cents. You can copy those device names back into AdMob and specifically target them and filter out the ones that are not performing. And what happens if you do this and you run the campaign is you see your EPCs are all over $1, some go up to $9, and you've taken a campaign that initially looked like it wasn't going to be very cost effective, and you've turned it into a real winner. And that's the power of analytics. So in closing, what I wanted to do was go back to the very beginning when I was talking about some of the objections or concerns that media buyers have about getting into the mobile space. Number one, that the economics aren't attractive. Number two, that it's too early, the learning curve's too difficult, that there are not good mobile optimized offers, and that there are not inadequate reporting and analytic tools. And just basically want to sort of give you the confidence, if you're interested in getting into mobile media buying, to do so. So thank you for your time. Any questions? Comments? Yes, sir.
So you mentioned education leads, ringtone sales, and app sales as offers that are converting. Are there other offer types? Do you have any other types of examples of things they're selling?
Yeah, the offers that are working best for us right now, and they're working really, really well, are dating and ringtones. I know from talking to people that there are a small number of people who are doing pretty well in education and click-to-call. We have not been able to really make that work yet. The real reason for that is we find that it's pretty easy for us to generate a huge amount of traffic, and that the traffic that we bring to the call center actually stays on the phone for a long time. But there's just a problem with qualification or conversion in the call center, so that doesn't work real well. We actually have been running some CPI campaigns pretty successfully, but it's really early days, and there's a lot of technical complexity in terms of being able to accurately close the loop between the click and the conversion so that you actually get credit for it. So again, in summary, what we're seeing is dating and ringtones are working great. Education is working well for some people, and I think that the app downloads are going to be working well broadly really quickly. Yes, sir. Yeah, it's a good question. We do some CPM buying, but mostly we do CPC buying. Again, our strategy is to buy pretty much the cheapest traffic we can, run a network. We even buy some Wi-Fi traffic for some offers, and then we use our analytics tools to filter out, the parts that don't work. So we're kind of wasteful in our consumption, but it actually right now is the best strategy for us. The problem with CPM is that you're competing with all the brands, and it gets very, very expensive very, very quickly. So we're seeing, it depends on the geography and the traffic source. Our CPC rates domestically probably 10 to 15 cents, something like that, starting point. A bit more expensive in Europe. Okay, go ahead. Can you be more specific? Anything particular you're looking for?
Well, from my perspective, it's looking like the European and Asian market is more acceptable of buying across mobile devices than they are in the U.S. market. I'm just wondering if you're seeing the same thing.
Interesting question. Most of the offers that we run are not CPS offers, they're CPA offers, so lead gen. So we don't see that exact distinction. What we do see is there's differences between Europe and North America in ringtones, for example. Like ringtones have been around, very common in Europe for a long time, and the market's a bit saturated, more saturated over there. And also the costs are higher for buying the traffic. So we're finding ringtone offers are working great in the States. The other thing that we find is it's really a puzzle. I mean, you want to find a good performing offer and match it to your target geo. One of the things that's actually frustrating for us right now is we have some offers that are very sort of non-mainstream offers. It could be a game or a gimmick or something, and they're working great in certain geographies like Turkey or Norway or places where you just can't buy traffic. So we can run them very profitably, but we just can't scale up. In the back, yes?
How often do you filter your data? Like, how long would you run a campaign before you start eliminating the stuff that's not?
Yeah, the question is how often do we filter our data and how long we run a campaign before we start filtering things out. It depends on the offer and our relationship with the advertiser. I mean, so there's some variation, but a very typical case, we may take, if it's a strategic advertiser, we might have sort of a test budget of $5, $10, $20, or even $50,000 to work with. But if we're just picking up an offer that is not strategic, we'll try running it. We'll spend a few $100s a day over a few days. And thanks, Frank. And we'll watch it and see how it goes. We generally will look for devices and site IDs that don't convert at all, and we'll get rid of those right away, right? So if we see zeros, we'll filter them out and keep running the campaign for a few days. The reason for that is twofold. Number one is, since we're an internal group, we're getting the offers before they really go out to the network, and oftentimes there are problems with the campaign setup where the server-to-server postback is not working and there's tracking issues. And so we tend to be highly suspicious of zeros, right? So by getting rid of the zeros, we eliminate the traffic that's not converting, and then we investigate, and sometimes we'll find out that there's a technical problem, that zero was actually converting, but it just showed up wrong, and then we'll go back and add it in. So we do optimization all the time, multiple times every day sometimes. Michael. Are you talking about the traffic that we buy or the CPA that we? Yeah, good. Very, very good question. There's some variation. A lot of the campaigns that we get into the network that we'll try are sort of run-of-the-mill offers that are out there in a lot of different networks, and so there's not really a whole lot that we do aggressively to change the payout. But where it gets more interesting is where we're working with a strategic advertiser. A lot of times the advertiser may be new to mobile and they don't really even know what CPA they can afford. They don't know what their ROI is going to be. It could be something that's an offer that has a very, very long tail conversion, and so it's a process of learning. So what we'll typically do there is set up a test budget, again, 5, 10, 20, or 50K, and we'll work with the advertiser very closely, be as transparent as we can in terms of the data that we share, get as much data back from the advertiser as we can, and then we sort of develop sort of an understanding where the stasis point is, where the balance, where the advertiser's making good ROI, the pricing such that we can continue to run the campaign and buy the traffic we need to really scale it up. So it does vary a lot. We might run a campaign for 3 weeks, take the pulse, change the CPA with the advertiser, run it for another 3 weeks, do it again, and then sort of after 6 weeks, we have a pretty good idea usually of how the advertiser's going to convert and generate ROI and sort of what the CPA should be. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
What networks do you think have reliable geo-targeting? Relatively.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. We don't rely a whole lot on geo-targeting. I mean, we take as much information in the clickstream as we can get. Internally, we have proprietary tools that use, I don't know if you're familiar with TerraWurfel, but we use IP location and TerraWurfel to extract other information. But we find the geo-targeting really, really inaccurate, kind of for the reasons that I talked about. Number one is the way that the carriers map IPs, and number two is the use of proxies. So what we really do is we take it with a grain of salt. It's not it's sort of in terms of like the priority of the targeting and filtering we do, it's definitely down at the bottom of the list. The other thing I guess I'd say about geo-targeting is if you have an offer that maybe it's a daily deal or some sort of an offer that you need to target to a particular city or whatever, you can use that effectively. But what we find is that with most traffic sources, if you geo-target down to a level of an area like that's small, the volume just plummets. And so again, what we tend to do is not run a lot of offers that are local. We run offers that are more national or even could be regional in scope, and then we just throw out the traffic that we get that we don't like. Any other questions, comments from anybody? All right, thank you all for coming. Appreciate your time.